Welcome back to Squirrel Dealer. I am 13, and we're going to be playing some more jank, like we always do. Starting to think I need to start calling these decks off of the idea I had going in. Janking off, is that appropriate? Like, can I call a series that? What does chat think? Well, this is going to be us janking off tonight with Panharmonicon. So, Panharmonicon. If an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it triggers an additional time. I'm sure most people are familiar with this. Anybody watching me is no doubt aware of who Saffron Olive is, and this is like his signature card. We're going to be abusing the crap out of it tonight. We don't actually do anything overly powerful. We're just going to be triggering a lot of triggers. And, I mean, we'll see if it gets there. Backing that up is Collected Company. Almost everything that we have is cheap and efficient because it has a good ETB effect, but it's also kind of a small creature. So Collected Company is going to be 4 mana to get 2 creatures of our choice. And then if we happen to run out of gas, which actually doesn't happen too often, but if we do, we have Eldrazi Displacer to flicker those creatures and actually get them working again. The best creatures we have at our disposal are Charming Prince. ETB, we actually get to select, if we have a Panharmonicon out, 2 different modes. But when he ETBs, he gets Scry 2, you gain 3 life, or flicker another creature. See where we're going with this? Then we get Jade Light Ranger. When it enters, it explores and then explores again. With a Panharmonicon that's 4 explores, we can actually make them quite large and also just draw a bunch of lands, filter the top of our deck. We can end up stacking it where Charming Prince and Jade Light enter off of a Coco, and we can like scry, we can Jade Light to pitch them, and do just all kinds of fun things to get to the cards that we want. And then we have Knight of Autumn. Once again, multiple ETB options that trigger different times off of Panharmonicon. We can make Knight of Autumn larger. We don't actually do that often. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Just good, clean removal, or gain 4 life. And then beyond that, we have Elvish Visionary. 2 mana, 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. It took me a little while in my Magic career to figure out why that was good, but it is just an amazing card, and doubling up, just so good. Then we have a couple of win conditions here. God Eternal Ronos is 5 mana. You cannot hit it off of Collected Company, but when it enters the battlefield, double the power of each creature that you control until end of turn. They gain vigilance, and then if it were to be removed from the battlefield, we get to put it back on top of our deck. Wingmaker Rock is in here just because I want it to be. I love this card. You can get a 3/4 bird when it enters, and whenever you attack, you gain life. And then we got our match, but I did actually just want to show this off. Let's actually minimize that because it's a little confusing. This is turn 8. This is a 1,310,72 3 toughness. God Eternal Ronos does some really busted stuff in this deck. And this is fine. So it doesn't do anything particularly good, but it's a turn 3 Panharmonicon and a Charming Prince to set up, as well as our mana drops. Alright, Thraben Inspector. If this is a fair deck, we are well equipped for fair decks. If they have Deck and Stone, it's great that our mana dorks are named differently, but yep, you get in. I'm expecting this to be Spell Quellers into Fairies, which can be a problem long term, but we'll just have to see how it goes. Brazen. Alright. Well, I still want to get my Panharmonicon out on 3, so let's just run out our mana dorks. We probably looked a lot like Green Devotion before we played the Sun Petal Grove. I guess I could have run out the Forest trying to keep that up. Looks like opponent's going to be holding up Brazen Borrower and potentially a Spell Queller. I'm trying to figure out right now if Panharmonicon getting Spell Quellered is worth it, or if I just want a Charming Prince and Displacer. Landing a Displacer means that Spell Queller will never ruin our day, but if they're going to burn the Spell Queller on the Panharmonicon, that might be fine. On the off chance they're running Censor, I want to make my land drop first, and I probably want to show a colorless land for the future Displacer. Yeah, we have plenty of green mana. Let's go ahead and just do this. Panharmonicon! Got it. Okay, well, unfortunately, that means we don't have a follow-up, but opponent's actually not on that quick of a clock. Eldrazi Displacer. Okay, well, that speeds things up. Not stoked about that one. Displacer can kind of just deal with the tokens. All right, well, we get to drop all three things in our hand. Is there any point to Displacer? And the way Displacer works is we actually get a caster Panharmonicon. There will just be nothing underneath it. Our opponent's going to be attacking in with a 5/5 and 5 more. We're at 15. We currently have a life gain engine online. Yeah, I think I just want my Panharmonicon back, so have to make sure to leave up the colorless here. Let's go ahead and just flicker this and get our Panharmonicon back. The next turn, Charming Prince is going to be pretty solid. I understand I'm going to be taking probably 10 here. Actually, no, Displacer's a 3/3. Might be okay. What I'm really looking for is another Coco or a good flicker target. 2 Charming Princes does technically go infinite. It's until each end step, but it does go infinite. Yep. Of note, because we are not Bant, we actually lose access to things like Spell Queller and Reflector Mage. Reflector Mage being very good in the shell, but we're here to flicker. I cannot run out the Displacer because of the text on Reflector Mage. So I can Charming Prince. I'd probably just use it to gain 6 and then chump block for a turn. Yeah, that seems fine. The colorless doesn't matter. Just gain 3, gain 3. There's another Llanowar Elf, so... Alright. We are moderately close to stabilizing. Do have to be aware of this Brazen Borrower, though. Unless we find our Wingmate Rock, we're not really going to have a flyer for that. Oh, that makes things more complicated. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't have the overlay up. There we go. Alright, we're going to send this here, take 6. That's probably not acceptable. At the moment, they're not going to be cracking the Selfless Spirit, and I don't want them to have the additional flyer, so maybe we do this. Just plan on losing 2 dorks. I won't have a chump blocker next turn, but I'll have Displacer, Flickering Charming Prince, so that's probably fine. Alright, apparently that was not worth cracking the Selfless Spirit. There's a Coco. I unfortunately can't do both of these. So let's take a look at the deck list really quick. Visionary drawing me 2 cards is quite good here. Charming Prince flickering is quite good here. Knight of Autumn is fine, although I'm only going to gain 8 life off of it. Opponent does have 3 mana open, and they are going to be flashing in this Brazen Borrower. They're going to be attacking me for 7 in the air, which means I need to hit a life gain target. But I've already gotten 3 of my mana dorks out of the way. Well, if they have a Spell Queller, I'm going to lose the game regardless. So I think what I'm going to do is just lead on Collected Company. Mystical Dispute could have blown me out here. Petty Theft on the Panharmonicon. Okay, that's pretty good for them. So 2 Visionaries, a Displacer, a Knight of Autumn. My best line here is probably take a Visionary, draw a card into a land for Displacer. I am taking 7 in the air at the moment, though, so I need to gain at least 1 life. I'd really love a land. But if I take this Displacer, I don't need to play the 1 in my hand. Charming Prince can come down, flicker my other Charming Prince, but without my Panharmonicon, that doesn't really do anything, so I can gain 4, gain 3. I guess the question is, am I fishing for my land or not? If I am, I have to take the Visionary. Okay, so Knight of Autumn's going to be gaining me life, and I suppose that means it's going to be Visionary. Visionary can chump block Gideon. Let's gain 4 life, draw land. Yay! I already played a land this turn. Okay. That's on me. That's 100% on me. There's no point in attacking. If they happen to find a deck and stone or something, it would just leave me forcing me to block with the Charming Prince or the Knight of Autumn. Alright, Visionary gets tossed here. They can't kill both of these, so I think I'm just going to double block the Reflector Mage. It might cause them to not to sack the Selfless Spirit pre-combat. Because they didn't run out the Brazen Borrower, I'm only on the table for 4 at 11. That's fairly healthy. I guess this technically gains me more life, but I actually value the Charming Prince more on the table. Okay. Alright, well, Rishkar is actually good mana. It's a terrible chump blocker, though. I can actually, if I Panharmonicon into Rishkar, I can kill the Gideon on the ground, but I don't think that's good enough. I think I have to lead on the Eldrazi Displacer and see if they actually have removal for it. And by removal, it's probably going to be a Spell Queller. Okay. So that puts me on Charming Prince Flicker. There, I'm only going to be netting 1 life loss each turn at the moment. Seems fine. Eldrazi Displacer on Gideon is mildly interesting, but yeah. Really needed that Panharmonicon to stay on the table. Petty Theft is actually quite good out of opponent's deck. Wonder what they have to have in hand. If they don't want to run out the Brazen Borrower, they probably have to have a really good reason for it. Alright, maybe they were just trying to figure out how to cast it. Oh, they thought they could cast both. That makes a bit more sense. That is a Reflector Mage, so on the Eldrazi Displacer. That makes things more difficult. I flicker Charming Prince now, I gain 3 life, that doesn't do anything. I flicker, hit the Brazen Borrower, I'm dead on table. So I have to throw away Charming Prince, and I'll actually just die. Well played, opponent. The Petty Theft on the Panharmonicon was the play that won them the game. Alright, Prowling, Serpapart. So I have to admit, this part of the sideboard was completely ad hoc because I had to run late at work tonight. This was just for Battle of Summers because it was a 1-mana Cryptic command. Seems pretty good. Phyrexian Revoker can name Planeswalkers. I'm assuming they have Teferi. They definitely showed us Gideon. It's also possible that they have Elspeth. I don't know if that's going to be better than something currently in the deck. Selfless Spirit's pretty good if they're on board clears. I could see them being on Settle, but being a creature-based deck, I could also see them just not being on creatures. Courser is actually fine, and I'm likely going to bring it in here. They're an aggro deck, and this is pseudo card advantage. It also kind of helps me sculpt my collected companies to a minor extent. Nissa is one of the flip cards that we still haven't tried to programmatically fix yet, so she is in the deck. Pretty good value. Rishkar is probably weak. There's no range here. The ramp doesn't actually help pay for anything. If we're hitting this late in the game, Rishkar's value is very minimal, and they can just bounce things with counters on it. I could see just trimming a Mana Dork. Wingmate Rock actually feels pretty good here, just being flying. Nissa goes and tutors us a land and then basically just dies. The +1 is pseudo card advantage. Maybe it's just the Nissa. Cut 2 green 3-drops for 2 green 3-drops. Alright, well, hopefully we're just a little bit faster. Oh, wow. This is awful. I keep this. I tuck the Eldrazi Displacer. No, I actually tuck the Knight of Autumn. There's no mana dork here, but I don't really want to go any lower. We are technically a 3-color deck because colorless is actually a color. Needing to pay for Eldrazi Displacer's mana is pretty burdensome. So I'm going to lose 2 life regardless, so I think I'm going to run out the Temple Garden here, Shock. Just helps fix my mana a little bit better in case I end up playing something different. Alright, another Panharmonicon. Smuggler's Copter. Ooh. See, I like this. This is just fantastic. I think at the moment I want to try to run out the Eldrazi Displacer. That means that they're probably going to Reflector Mage it. But if they don't have a Reflector Mage, it's going to be better on the table. Hotkey's getting to me. There we go. And Elvish Visionary won't be blocking Smuggler's Copter. They have nothing to haste in, so pretty easy chip damage here. I don't feel like we race them. Our creatures just aren't very good, but we should go well over the top, assuming that we don't get tempoed out. That's awkward. So I'm expecting bare minimum Spell Queller here. If I flicker the Elvish Visionary and I hit a land drop, it doesn't do anything. If I cast this one, then I hit a land drop. I can run out Charming Prince in addition to it. So let's see if we can actually just bait opponent here. Okay, that works. And we hit our land. Awesome. Alright, then that means we get to Charming Prince. And I think opponent doesn't have anything going on here. Not attacking Eldrazi Displacer into any flash creature Smuggler's Copter block. Just going to go for the card draw here. Like, we are very far ahead on cards at the moment, despite the fact that we... Yep, that hurts, but... Honestly, we got Panharmonicon. So if opponent runs out of creature, we get a Coco, and we're just in a fantastic spot. If they don't, then we can honestly just Panharmonicon again. That's mean. Yeah, that's a little frustrating. We don't really have any creature removal. Had that been a Detention Sphere, we would have been fine. So I can Coco looking for one of the other 3 Eldrazi Displacers, which I think I put one at the bottom during Mulligans. I probably should have paid a little more attention then. If I Coco here, opponent can have Negate. If I Panharmonicon, they can have Negate. I think I just want Panharmonicon out. Value is how we're going to beat their deck. If they have the Negate, we will just Coco into something like a Displacer and get back my other Panharmonicon. Plus, Collected Company being instant speed feels pretty valuable. Although, this is a respectable clock where they get a hold-up interaction. Yep, that is a pretty decent deck. So I'm going to run out Charming Prince here. If they have interaction, they probably need to use it. Otherwise, we get a Scry 4. Okay, I'm actually going to gain life and Scry 2. This allows me to set up for a Coco draw and kind of undo some of the Smuggler Copter damage. Yeah, I don't want any of these. These are terrible. Alright, then I'm going to yield until my opponent does something. I am still technically on the table from the Smuggler's Copter, but I get to end-step Coco and then main-step Coco. Yep. This is technically a clock forcing interaction, so really can't fault them for going for it. They've discarded 2 more Smuggler's Copters and a Reflector Mage, which means they definitely have action in hand. That's a Selfless Spirit. Here's first Coco. It's going to get Spell Quellered. Yep. Then hopefully untap and Coco again. I have to leave up a colorless in case we find a displacer so I can... Oh, ouch. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I'd like to draw a Collected Company first, then Panharmonicon. The rest don't matter. Yeah, I wanted that. Alright, well, hopefully the pseudo card advantage and life gain from Courser actually commits us to something. The Selfless Spirit Supreme Verdict combo could actually be pretty bad for our future. But... yeah, I mean, we're actually dead in 2 turns. If they have something for this Eldrazi Displacer, we're just out of it. Tapped Irrigated Farmland. Alright, well this is it. If they have something, they have something. Yep. I'm going to partially call that good draws from opponent. I actually think that that's a match that we should be fairly favored to win just because we get so much card advantage. We don't actually have a way to interact with most of their flyers outside of the Wingmate Rock, but we do get a lot of cards. Opponent did play it very well. I might have played into that Supreme Verdict a little too much, but we had 4 cards in hand, 2 of which were Cocos. So, don't really know what else to comment on for there. I do know that we are kind of light on win conditions. We have Flip Nissa, we have Wingmate Rock, and God Eternal Ronus, but with the amount of Jade Light Rangers and Knight of Autumns and stuff like that that we can just churn through our decks. Elvish Visionary triggering multiple times off of Panharmonicon. It was kind of unique that opponent had the Deputy of Detentions, just a way for us to not interact with removing our value engine, and the Spell Quellers that could just counter our Collected Companies. I do think that that matchup was also a little bit better with the Veil of Summers in it. Just let us get hexproof from whatever they're doing. Like, this is awful. I need 1 green and this hand is awesome. Okay, this is fine. Tucking God Eternal Ronus because it's not important yet. Actually would have liked a Mana Dork or a Visionary. But I really don't want to go to 5. I don't think it gets much better than this style of hand. Appears to be a control from opponent's side. A sad little forest without a turn 1 play. Charming Prince Scry actually might be relevant here, though. Check lands typically mean they're trying to do stuff after turn 4, so I think opponent's trying to stick around for the long game. That should actually benefit us quite a bit. Love the additional land. This could actually turn Charming Prince into a Mana Dork next turn. I would have 2 mana up. That doesn't actually accomplish anything. I think it's better on the bottom of our deck. We have a couple of 3-drops we like. Ooh, it's Grixis, so this might be dragons? I know subreddit was actually pretty stoked about Grixis Dragons post Veil of Summer ban. Okay. Opponent's at 16, 6 cards in hand, 3 lands. We don't have a land set up for next turn. I think that puts me on Eldrazi Displacer here. It's going to require top decking a colorless source to activate, but it should force interaction from opponent, and we have a backup one. Running out the Knight of Autumn there. I can't tell from opponent's deck if I should be gaining life, trying to hold it for artifact destruction, or just try to grow it and close out the game. I'd assume growing it is the worst decision there. This looks like... okay. Not revealing a dragon. So this is 100% Grixis Dragons. They potentially had a dragon in hand and didn't want to give us that information. They knew that the Force Spike was going to be enough to counter it, and they could follow it up with an Opt. This is why you don't run fast lands with check lands. I know it's going to take a little bit for people to figure out what their mana base should look like in this format, but that's exactly why you don't do it. I could see a Bolus trying to come down from opponent's side had that come in untapped. Knowing this is Grixis Dragons, they could potentially have something like Outpost Siege or Vance's Blasting Cannons for card advantage. I feel like I'm one of the few people that actually still try to do that despite its success in Standard. I'm just going to run out the Knight of Autumn here. I actually do value this Displacer in my hand since Coco likely isn't going to find one for me. And with opponent being at 14, this could trade with a 4/4 dragon. That would be Glorybringer, although Glorybringer would just roast it. It could be Thunderbreak Region or Bolus. The fact that Glorybringer is going to come down and probably roast out, I'm just going to gain life. Missing our land drop there is super bad with 3 4-drops in hand. Alright. Collected Company is the only redundant card in hand, and K-Command is a very powerful magic card. This is where things like Elvish Visionary would actually pay off really well. Seeing this K-Command go is actually really good with the other Panharmonicon in hand. Alright, so Glorybringer. We almost done here. And they exerted. So I think we're going to put them to the test to have another K command. We're fairly far behind here, and I need a Coco with Panharmonicon out in order to try to come back into this. Sticking my ATBs doesn't really matter that much this turn. Tassiger leaving K command. Alright. Okay, so opponent has blew up. I could see a Spell Pierce in my future, but I just have to go for this main phase. They could potentially have more Silumgar Scorns, and that can't happen. Okay, so we have some hits here. Not many, but some. Jade Light Ranger for the Explorer. Charming Prince for the Flicker. So we're going to... So I don't actually care about getting the counters on Jade Light Ranger, but I want to flicker it at instep. So let's stack one of these for exile. That's going to go first. We're going to exile the Jade Light Ranger. Then let's explore, and I was actually supposed to scry before the explore triggers, but yeah, whatever. We could try to put some bad cards on top, or lands. I'm perfectly okay to hit lands here. Okay, not a very valuable Fatal Push. I guess it stops me from displacing it in the future. Alright, I don't actually want the Knight, and I'm okay to draw the Forest. I don't really want to grow the Jade Light here, so let's go ahead and just keep both on top. We're going to put that into the graveyard. We're going to put that into the graveyard. We're going to keep that on top. Then we're going to flicker the Jade Light Ranger. It's going to come back in, and we're just going to keep Panharmonicon on top 4 times. Put on top, put on top, put on top. I could actually go digging for a Coco here, but I think that drawing the Panharmonicon with the Elvish Visionary is fine. Actually, is that correct? Next turn is likely going to be Visionary, draw the Panharmonicon. Ouch. Valtongue Invocation makes you sack a creature, which is why they Fatal Push the Charming Prince. Taking 8 here is actually going to hurt a lot, so we can't just Panharmonicon. We got to draw a couple of cards and try to get a... Yeah, like that's fine. I think I have to get the Displacer out. This opens it up to removal. But I need something out here just in case they remove my only creature so I can chump block the Tassiger. Yep. So they can activate Tasker. I can give them back a Fatal Push. Actually, they're getting back Opt at this point. 100%. Oh yeah, with the Exert, they got it. Oh, that game would be so different with Veil of Summer. Alright, let's go to sideboarding. Selfless Spirit can protect my creatures. Phyrexian Revoker can name their planeswalkers that really, or Tassiger and their planeswalkers. That doesn't really help a whole lot. The 3-mana Sarkon is actually really, really good in their deck. Scavenging Ooze is probably a consideration. I'm expecting JVP out of their deck. I could also see Prowling Serpapard so that our spells can't be countered, and Courser, just so that we can get pseudo card advantage and gain some life. Courser might be a little bit too slow in this matchup, given the fact I already want to bring other stuff in. This really only stops Silumgar scoring, but opponent's going to have probably dig through time to go find it. The double blue was really hard when I tried to run it when the format first came out, so this actually just might be greedy. I don't know. I know I want the Selfless Spirits, so I can sack them to save my creatures from multiple removal spells, and Crux of Fate, which is probably going to be coming in post-board. Knight of Autumn's kind of just mediocre. Probably not as mediocre as Jade Light Ranger, though. I can see trimming a couple of those. Same argument for Rishkar. It was really cute as an option to get like 4 counters or 6 counters and be able to mana dork ourselves up. If we get to the point that they don't remove our Eldrazi Displacer, it gives us a ton of mana to just continue comboing off. Maybe it's just all the Jade Light Rangers. I mean, the other option would be Panharmonicon. I'm not a huge fan of removing the Panharmonicons, but the fact that it does to K-Command is awful. It's probably another reason I don't want the Phyrexian Revoker. Yeah, they're probably maximizing K-Command. This feels so bad, but it might just be bringing the Coursers and the Jade Lights. Just try to go a little bit natural value on them. Try to play mid-range. Does that work? If that does, I need to take some of my dorks out and actually put a couple more threats in and just turn into a traditional Coco deck. We're going to end up having 36 hits. That's like 8 more than you'd expect. 20 lands also feels a little low, but with 6 dorks, that might be okay. Alright, well, we're losing the Panharmonicon. Feels super bad, man. I mean, you have 20 lands, you're going to have a non-zero number of those in your opener. Alright, this is fine. Ship back the Knight of Autumn because I don't know how valuable that's actually going to be. I'm going to put in a tap land. Charming Prince can scry us into more lands. Sad, sad K-Command. Really hurts your hopes and dreams. Okay, this is reeking of a Wild Slash and or Fatal Push, but just have to run my stuff into it. Charming Prince is here to filter for us. I'd love to find some lands. You're not supposed to give me that information before I scry, but I appreciate it. Guess they just wanted their F6 value. That is actually very interesting. So I get to put Nissa on top and then Scavenger Grounds on top of that. So I'll make my 3rd land drop next turn, and then I'll be able to use Nissa to go get my 4th land drop, or I'll just be able to Coco into Nissa during my upkeep, maybe? No, that feels bad. I have to see if my Elvish Mystic is going to stick around, though. And I'm very explicitly sequencing it this way so that if they want to kill the Mystic, they can. Whoops. Okay. That's fine. They were going to try to kill the Elvish Mystic anyway. So I can Coco, but I think I'd prefer to just Nissa here. This is going to at least get me a card, so it's a 2-for-1. It is technically a land, but it's still a decent land to go get. Noxious Grasp, alright. We're going to play our forest and ship it over to opponent. Yep, they are super stocked on removal. It's a good thing most of our creatures have ETB value. This also is just reeking, absolutely reeking of a Solmgar Scorn, so I'm not going to run myself into it. We're just going to run out our one-for-ones that they have to answer. Hopefully get a land here. We did not. So we can back-to-back Coco to make sure to resolve one. If we hit a land, I could have ran out the Displacer, expected it to die. It's probably not worth it. Yeah, I think I'd rather resolve Cocos. Cocos could be Eldrazi Displacers. And as long as opponents tapped out and they're not representing Solmgar Scorn, just going to main phase this, we can go ahead and grab. The Scooz is very tempting, but I think I'm going to be using my mana for the foreseeable future, so Night of Autumn's not really going to get me there. Yeah, let's just go for Scooz. They have to answer the Scooz. Then we can Temple Garden, and I'm actually going to shock this into play to eat my Charming Prince, just that Scooz can't die to a Wild Slash. They actually have to have a Fatal Push for it. They won't be flipping Bolas for the immediate future, but I have some good value cards coming, and they're down to 4 cards in hand. Like, that's still a lot, but they have to have a board clear right now. That is a Selfless Spirit. Okay, so that's good to know I can hit that off of a Coco. I cannot hit that off of a Coco and double Scooz. So let's go ahead and just send the Scooz in, see if they actually have the Fatal Push. They've really been trying to leave up this double blue, and that's a read that I really need to try to stick with. So I'm expecting them to have a counterspell. And apparently a Fatal Push with the way that this is going down. I think I want to just offer this trade. No, I don't. I'm going to eat another creature. Eating another creature means that they have to burn removal on my Scooz, and then I can eat their graveyard, which feels relevant at the moment. Noxious Grasp. That's so annoying that they get that many of those sideboard cards. Alright, whatever. That's fine. I think at that moment then, if I am getting the read that they have the counter spell, I'm going to run out the Prowling Serpapard just because it can also attack N. I can always crack Scavenger Grounds to eat their graveyard should I see a moment arise that I care. The fact that they're missing land drops is not great for me, though. Alright. Okay, they control a dragon and they have the double blue up, which means they can counter this, so I'm probably okay with that. Let's go ahead and run out my Selfless Spirit with intent to Jadelight Ranger and pick up that Temple Garden they showed us. Timing on that for them wasn't fantastic. I guess they wanted to see what was on top of our deck, but that's fine. Alright, get in for 4. Offering the trade. So they have another Bolas is the read I'm getting. Okay, let's Jadelight, pick up some lands, make our land drops. Didn't mean to hit 2 land drops, but that's fine. I'm also probably going to keep this. Actually, I only need Sack a Desert for this. I'm going to keep the Temple Garden in hand so that I have a sack out or a discard card for Bolas, assuming they have another one. I mean, I know I can't play 2 lands, but it's more about figuring out what the read is, and the read was opponent had another Bolas coming. Alright, well, I think this forces my action then. So let's go ahead and Coco. I want to leave up at least that. Okay, Courser is probably greatest value for me. Courser, Flicker, And then pick up Charming Prince, Flicker, Jade Light is probably next highest upside. I guess I probably could have done this post combat. Alternatively, it's Charming Prince, Flicker the Elvish Visionary, and just draw a card, but that's weak to discard spells. And Jade Light can actually help filter a couple of cards or just draw us a couple of lands. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to exile the Jade Light Ranger. It can't attack anyway. Oh, and look at that. We have a Coco on top of our deck. I probably shouldn't have ran out that land. For some reason, I thought I was going to have 4 mana up. I don't currently have a mana dork. Put on top, put on top. I got myself a big Jade Light. Alright, opponent just scoops it up. So we can value them out, and like I said, we have a bunch of little efficient mana dorks, so we're going to hopefully stress the fairer decks. They're not going to cut K-Command, even not seeing the Panharmonicon. It's just too powerful of a card for them. They can usually kill one of our dorks and make us discard or pick up a bolus or something. The Scavenging Ooze probably might incite a little bit more removal out of their side, although they spent the entire first part of our game chipping our mana dorks out of the way and the Charming Princes. Jade Light did show itself to be pretty resilient. Do I want that over anything else here? The Wingmate Rock won't be big enough to attack in through their dragons, but I can get a lot of tokens. Can also gain back some life if they actually do get ahead of us for a moment. I don't know. Selfless Spirit's technically a 1-for-1, but I can use it to protect a valuable card like a Displacer if it's on the table already. The Prowling Serpapard is good just because it's already a 4-3, and I don't need to actually have the top of my deck stacked for the Jade Light Ranger. Knight of Autumn. I don't think Knight of Autumn's life gain, they didn't show us anything worth shattering, so it might actually be this. I think that might have been a mistake for me last game to not trim the Knight of Autumns instead of the Jade Light Rangers. Jade Light's at least going to draw us lands, which is technically card advantage. Opponent was stuck on 4 lands that entire game, which Control typically wants to make all of their land drops. And this is actually fine. God Eternal Ronus will make just life miserable for our opponent unless they can discard it. Although I think God Eternal's going back. I'm going to curve fairly well. It's either going to be the Visionary or God Eternal Ronus. And I'm not going to have enough mana for God Eternal Ronus, although Jade Light should get me there. God Eternal's double the power of each creature you control isn't relevant until late game. Don't really have a way to shuffle. It's going to take me roughly all 4 Cocos to get through my deck. Alright, well, God Eternal, maybe we'll see you one day. Until next time. Alright, and the first creature to bite the dust is going to be Llanowar Elves. But 1-for-1 should actually favor us, unlike most matchups for the control list. Opting might be looking for red mana or removal. If it was red mana, they would have done it pre-land drop. So they have a Fatal Push. Thoughtseize. I'm expecting Displacer to go away. It's going to be the hardest to remove. Elvish Visionary is already a 2-for-1, though. Jade Light Ranger is likely going to be a 2-for-1. It's really hard. I could see an argument for any of these. They're not removing the Llanowar Elf, so it's likely one of the 3-drops, though. I really don't want to show them the Nissa, but the Nissa's going to shuffle our deck and put Ronus back somewhere in the middle, which is probably relevant. Nissa coming down later actually might be better, though, because if I can flip her with 7 lands, then... Oh, boy. They have to have Revolt in order to kill the Eldrazi Displacer. I think that they left us the Displacer because we don't have Colorless at the moment. Alright, I guess we're going to go on Displacer then. It's at least a 3-3 for the time being, so it's going to be a solid attacker if they can't remove it. They're going to have Silumgar's Scorn, not Scorn. the black sack with a removal spell for the Llanowar elves. That works too. I would likely play this tapped if I don't draw something, so I'm going to use this opportunity to Visionary and see if I can find something like a Charming Prince. Serpapart is fine. The 3 mana here, I'm not really reading any flash, but I am reading potentially the red Spitflame. Deal 4 damage to target creature. So let's attack with Eldrazi Displacer. See if they've actually got the Spitflame. They seem really heavy on the removal and not so heavy on the dragons. So I assume they're not playing something like Spitflame, which overperformed in my list. Okay, command. I guess it's going to put the Serpapart away. Mismatch Catacombs. Alright, well that's pretty good for you, opponent. I'm going to discard my redundant Displacer, just because Nissa will actually get me a land and shuffle my deck, which is something I've been prioritizing. That is great. I'm only going to have 5 mana this turn, but that's perfectly acceptable. So I want to get my colorless source out. This is only going to get me a basic forest, so... Yeah, and I want to leave the Llanowar Elves untapped if there's any random shenanigans with haste I'm not expecting. I could totally see a Glorybringer coming down and roasting my Displacer, so something to be aware of. This being sorcery speed means I can't protect my Displacer. They just duress me when I showed them the force that I went and got for turn. That makes me sad. That is a collected company. So I do not have enough to Displacer and Coco, which means I'm just going to hold up Coco. Opponent has realized that I can technically beat them down, so they're not attacking with their Bolus. Four mana, 3 Witch's Blue. Yeah, that feels like a misstep. That could be a problem long term. Yep, we will take our beats. I don't think Collected Company will find me anything that I actually prefer to do at the moment, but we are going to cast it here. And I want to leave up a colorless. No, I don't think it really does anything, but may as well keep all 3 colors up. Okay, that is a Charming Prince that's mildly timed in a poor way, because if I flicker Nissa now, it's going to come back at my instep instead of this one. Yeah, I don't really have amazing options here. So let's put that on top. Any order, we are going to flicker. I guess just go for Nissa. Then let's eat their graveyard as much as possible. That is a Charming Prince. So I have 3 creatures in my graveyard, so that's all fine. I'm going to be drawing a forest at instep. Let's go ahead and just attack with Scoos. I honestly think this Charming Prince might be better in my hand despite all the discard my opponent's rocking. Okay, let's eat a couple of creatures. So I want to leave up 3 for Displacer. If I leave up 2 for Charming Prince, that means I'm only going to hit for 3. Don't believe I'm actually going to Charming Prince here. So yeah, let's just grow this to the point that it's actually a respectable clock. If opponent has removal spell for my Llanowar Elves, that feels really bad. We'll go tutor out an additional forest, keeping this Charming Prince protected in my hand. Don't think that was thought through very well, but alright. I mean, now they get to kill my Displacer, which might be a problem, but still perfectly acceptable. I've got the biggest creature on board. They're currently stuck on 4 mana. I'm likely going to be flipping this Nissa. Oh, and an additional Displacer is great. Let's send in Scoos, and I have 2 activations of Displacer up. I don't really want to run out the other one in case there's a board clear. I don't have any way to get a Selfless Spirit into play. I'm sorry, last turn was slightly bad sequencing. I should have exiled my Charming Prince and then used Charming Prince to exile Nissa so it should be off the table since opponent recognizes she's going to be a problem. I could also be evaluating my opponent's graveyard at the moment. They can play Tasker and have 1 mana up. Yeah, let's just keep this clear. I really don't want to see a Tasker. Then I am going to go for it. I know that she's not protected at the moment, but this is just tutoring out an additional land card. There's a Sun Petal Grove. Now we get to flip Nissa. I could have actually flickered her in response to that, but I don't really think it's that important. We found a land, it enters play. Ooh, Field of Ruin. I wonder how greedy they are. Let's go for it. Take them off red. We'll get our plains because we can. Ah, they didn't have red. All right. Let's send in Scoos. If they try to double block, I can displace their Kalitas. Yeah, I don't really think you wanted to do that, opponent. I don't think they've played with Displacer before, so it's a little hard to judge that. I took them off red so they can't actually hit the thing. I did mistap, though. I took myself off of my only planes, but yeah, opponent was at 3. I actually could have just alpha'd there. My apologies. I missed lethal. But we do move up to 1-1. We definitely stomp control. We might have been a little slow for the flying spirits, blue-white flyers. I don't really know what to call that. We didn't see Teferi, and they also were on Brazen Borrowers and Gideons and the like, but definitely punished control there. Like, just super punished. I also don't think they were running enough lands. The fact that they got stuck on 4 for 2 games is pretty bad for them. But that felt pretty decisive, despite the fact that we had boarded out our Panharmonicons, which is a cardinal sin. If you build this deck, you don't ever want to do that. But K-Command is a heck of a card. Overall, though, I've been fairly happy with this. Like, it's been performing. All right. Yeah, this is fine. We're essentially just going to do what we did that last game, but we're going to turbo do it. Stomping Grounds could be a problem. I think we might suffer a little bit with aggressive decks. This looks like a Phoenix list, though. There is a Panharmonicon. If they can come out fast enough, keep us off our dorks, we stumble on mana, I could definitely see a problem coming out of aggressive decks. Okay. Let's lead on Elvish Visionary. I could use Nissa, but I don't need to go tutor land for this turn. I kind of just want to draw a card and see if it changes what I'm doing. Can't imagine it would since our only 1-drops are actually mana dorks, but you know, you got to try. There could have been an argument to save Visionary for the turn I Panharmonicon, but I'm only going to have 1 mana up after Panharmonicon next turn. Seasonal Ritual. Okay, I actually feel like I've seen this deck. Oh yeah, it's the Jeskai Ascendancy deck. If we don't die here, I can run out the Eldrazi Displacer. If we find a colorless, I can actually stop them from comboing off by giving their creature summoning sickness. But if they fizzle here, they fizzle, and we'll probably end up being able to come back from it. We have some Eidolons on the sideboard that just absolutely wreck this deck. I almost put Ren Wingmare in when I realized that Veil of Summer got banned. That is a Treasure Cruise, so that could be a problem. So they get a look at 3 new cards. They have to find 1-drops. Discarding Unbridled Growth is not a good sign for us. It means that they drew all action. But they're not deterministic until they are actually deterministic, so it is looking like we're rather dead, but I can't confirm it. Discarding a redundant Jeskai Ascendancy, discarding a land, so they, although that was with Insight, so that probably can't be counted on. Jeskai Ascendancy into Paradise Druid could mean that they're out, though. Yep, looks like they're out. It is Trample, and this is a flicker target in the future. Well, that's not a colorless source. I can... I think I'm on just Panharmonicon Elvish Visionary. Nope, I can't. For some reason, I thought this was tapping for mana. I don't know why I've been struggling with that so much. Let's just Panharmonicon. That does tell opponent that they have to bring in their Fragmentizes, but it really shouldn't matter that much. And then opponent gets free reign. They couldn't combo off last turn with 1 mana. They might be able to do it this turn with 4. They just have to go for it. Sorry, that was a mistake. Should have left the Visionary back, because if they don't find another Crash Through, they won't have Trample. So if they don't find Trample, they wouldn't have been able to kill us. Another Treasure Cruise means that it likely doesn't matter, though. Yeah, you have 8 cards in hand, but you're going for an additional Paradise Druid, so I have to imagine you whiffed. Nope, that gets haste. So they have 2 mana infinitely running. They only need to be able to get 5 more activations, so they got it. Like, 7 cards in hand, there's no way they don't. They're just generating extra mana here, and doesn't really matter because we have this little fun Eidolon on the sideboard that says each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn, and that's going to stop the game. We have Knight of Autumns. Now that we know what we're playing against, we have a pretty decent shot here. Scavenging Ooze can stop them from treasure cruising. Phyrexian Revoker doesn't name mana abilities, so... Ooh, it's a non-land. Never mind, you're coming in. So this won't be able to name Lumbering Falls or basically just Forest or whatever they're going to go off of with Sylvan Awakening. So that's a consideration, but this does stop the Paradise Druid. The God Eternal is just overkill at this point. Same with Wingmate Rock. All of this is fine to hit off of Coco's. I could see Courser also being a little bit valuable here just so that we can get a little bit deeper into our deck, but we just need to slimline a little bit. Just all the cards that actually have strong value and come out fast. So this time I do think it's correct to trim the Jade Light Ranger because this can destroy Jeskai Ascendancy. These cards all just replace themselves. I could even see trimming a non-zero number of Panharmonicons just because we stop this, we stop it. Of note, this is an as you enter the battlefield, not when it enters the battlefield. Pretty strong distinction between ETB and I think it's card-defining characteristic is the official term for it. So Phyrexian Revoker will not get doubled up by Panharmonicon. Then maybe just another Jade Light Ranger. Maybe just take out all the Jade Light Rangers. I can't sub out Panharmonicon 2 games in a row. We just can't do it. Alright, we're going to play first. We have a Phyrexian Revoker and an Eidolon, so easy keep. I even get a lead on Visionary before they show me a Paradise Druid. Seems pretty solid. And Eidolon actually does a really fun thing with us where if we get Eldrazi Displacer, we can get a ton of value while our opponent's just like opt. And we're like, okay, well, let's just flicker Jade Light Ranger with a Panharmonicon out and. Yep, Unbridled Growth. So that does some color fixing for them, but we're just going to draw a card. They should end up having a card like... I don't think Magnetic Sinkhole was in Standard. I think that was one of the Modern Horizons cards. But they should have a card similar to that. They are essentially a 5-color deck. I think they keep it mostly in Jeskai plus green, but they should have a removal spell for a Phyrexian Revoker or an Eidolon. So they don't really have a way to animate. I am expecting a Jeskai Ascendancy out of them next turn, so I'm just going to look for a Knight of Autumn. I can Phyrexian Revoker on Paradise Druid, but don't really think that that's good enough because they're going to have to Jeskai Ascendancy, Paradise Druid, and Expedite it in order to go off next turn versus me just countering their play. Yeah. Alright, well, now I can double Phyrexian Revoker next turn. There might be a flash card. I don't believe there is, but there might be. They were like 90% Monty last turn, though, on turn 3. Like, it was a really good draw for their deck. Yeah, they can't even Jeskai Ascendancy here. The Expedite is a Hail Mary to try to hit our creature. I'm going to run out one Phyrexian Revoker post-combat. Name the Paradise Druid, and then I'm going to Charming Prince on the Elvish Visionary, just looking for the Knight of Autumn. There could be an argument to run out Displacer here, just because if I find a Knight of Autumn, I can keep them hard-locked, but don't really think that that's a road worth investigating until at least next turn. I just want to find the Knight of Autumn first. Alright, and then your Paradise Druid won't make mana. We get our Visionary back, we draw a card. Panharmonicon is acceptable. Yeah, they still can't even Jeskai Ascendancy. That doesn't really help them much. Now the question is, do I want to... whatever. Let's just alpha. We are attacking for 6 each turn, which is a 3-turn clock, so they have to respect that. I can start putting more stacks pieces out, but... yes. That means I get to Eldrazi Displacer, Phyrexian Revoker, and that should have been a concession. It's very possible they can kill me if they have like a Brazen Borrower and Jeskai Ascendancy, Expedite, Paradise Druid. They don't have the mana for that. Wild Slash? Nope, there's the Ascendancy. So they can start looting, but it's going to cost them a card every time that they do it. I'm just going to alpha here, and I'd prefer not to show them the Eidolon of Rhetoric. We are very close to just... like, we're essentially in garbage time at the moment. I cannot play an additional land. I have 3 mana available to me, so let's flicker this guy. Just looking for the... didn't get it. Do I want to show them the Eidolon of Rhetoric? Just, yeah, let's close it. Running out the Eidolon there, it would have been better of me to run out Eidolon and then hold up Flicker to protect it. But we have enough pieces that shut this down that I really am having a hard time seeing it go poorly, at least with that last hand. Opponent being on the play, if they do have the quick turn 3 kill, 100% you can get it. But you give us enough time to set up like 5 or 6 Staxy pieces versus your combo, we're probably good. Alright, well, we have turn 2 Knight for turn 3 Jeskai Ascendancy. We also have a Phyrexian Revoker, should it come to it. This deck has had some beautiful hands, and some hands that are just like one land and utter garbage. There's an Unbridled Growth. Okay, well, I don't think that there's much hiding it at this point, so I'm just going to call Paradise Druid and see if they drew an answer to it. Elvish Mystic's not going to be tapping for mana, so we're going to swing in. I'm pretty sure the Phyrexian Revoker forces them on Sylvan Awakening. Paradise Druid. Then if they do happen to get Jeskai Ascendancy next turn, we get a Knight of Autumn, blow it up. If not, we can just Panharmonicon. Dual shot. Alright, well, they don't have a land, so that's fine. Lead on Elvish Visionary. Yeah, that hurts our deck. Really disappointed they're not running Olivia Wild dual shot, though. Yeah, this is Olivia Wild dual shot. There's a thread on Reddit about famous people's magic cards. It was really, really funny. There's actually a ton of them out there. Alright, well, opponent is doing the full stop here. There we go. I'm going to just try to get some more colors out here. I really don't think it matters. Then we still have Knight of Autumn, which is going to make it super hard for our opponent to go off. Knight of Autumn is also going to put up a pretty respectable clock because it's going to be able to blow up Jeskai Ascendancy the turn that it comes down and then grow itself. Unless that's this turn. Okay, that play there means that they had... they had the Jeskai Ascendancy or a burn spell in hand. And then they're desperately trying to get to white mana. Now they cut themselves off of red. So that actually might mean that was their last red card? I don't know. That was definitely a Hail Mary ditch. Their deck plays a very, very small amount of lands because they don't want to draw them while they're comboing off. Okay. So I can Charming Prince here and Eldrazi Displacer. If opponent has Jeskai Ascendancy, we can die, though. I can Knight of Autumn, but that doesn't really accomplish anything at the moment. I think that this is their one turn to go off. First things first, though. Let's Charming Prince and Scry and exile the Elvish Visionary. Visionary can't attack in at the moment, so we may as well draw a card at end step. We can Scry 2, try to set up our draw, which we don't want any of those at the moment. Then Visionary is going to come back. Yeah, I mean, we can still technically die at this moment, so let's just run out Eldrazi Displacer so that if we draw a land with either of these two draws, or our upkeep draw, we can Knight of Autumn and hold up the Eldrazi Displacer. It's also not impossible that we deck our opponent if we end up gaining somewhere in the ballpark of like 30-40 life. They have to get a number of untapped creatures very early. Okay, no red mana yet. Oh, sorry, they have red mana here. Guess no Jeskai Ascendancy yet? Really? Like for realsies deck? Alright, let's just try to draw a land. Nope, don't have colorless. That is incredibly disappointing. Alright, so I guess I'm going to gain 8 and run out 2 Llanowar Elves. Feels super bad, man. Yeah, the colorless is a real cost in this deck. Doesn't matter how much scrying, how much drawing I can set up, it is just a real cost. So I'm going to gain 8, so it's significantly harder for them to combo kill us. Then I'm going to run out 2 chump blockers as well as 2 additional mana for future turns if we find colorless. And they technically have red available and showed us dual shot, so I'm not going to send Displacer into its death. Guess that might have been a reason to grow the Knight of Autumn, but seeing as how we have a backup, it wasn't nearly as important. Alright, this is their opportunity to go off. We unfortunately stumbled about as hard as they did. So right now they're looping 1 continuous mana, and they do not have trample. We are at 26, though. Oh, and they're drawing? Yeah, that's a Hail Mary. They didn't even tap for a specific color first. So we might be fine. We have a ton of dead draws, though. I think the best draw is a colorless source or a collect company. All right. Opponent removes Charming Prince, which is weird. You think they'd go after the Knight of Autumn first, but you got it. I'm also getting the read that they're on Treasure Cruise. Yep, that's a Treasure Cruise. I guess drawing that Scavenging Ooze wouldn't have been awful. For some reason, I thought I had colorless when I put it to the bottom. Alright, another dork, which means they probably have an Expedite in hand, so they can make it doubly hasty. It's really sad that this game has gone on that long, and the play that actually probably made the difference was the dual shot on the Phyrexian Revoker. They obviously brought in a ton of removal. They've ended up using 2 Shivon Fires and a dual shot at this point. They even brought in Naturalize. They discarded it, so I think they're planning on winning here. Oh, they used the ritual here. That makes sense. There's an Insight. Okay, draw a couple of cards. But to my earlier point, they're already halfway through their deck, and they're only currently attacking for 8. If they're all cantrips, then and they decide not to loot, that could potentially be plus 30. But as long as they're looting to try to continue drawing into the right cards, they might not even be able to get up to 26 by the time that they grow this enough, especially if I can throw a couple of chump blockers in front of it. So, I've got to let them go. There's another Treasure Cruise, so they're pretty flush with cards. Treasure Cruise is also getting the mill plan closer. There's a Claim bringing in Paradise Druid, so they're going to have double mana up as well as 2 attackers, so a Crash Through is going to be more valuable. Fame is going to give it haste. Also make it pretty beefy. So I currently have 7, 8 toughness, so they've got to be able to get to 32 damage. They're currently at 16. But they're doubling up now. Oh, they just had the Expedite. There's the Crash Through. And they are still looting with Just Guy Ascendancy. So, I mean, we got to make them get there. Currently at 18. That is a dig through time. That's actually a little bit better than Treasure Cruise. So that can help them nitpick, and if they sculpt their hand well enough, they actually won't need to loot anymore with Just Guy Ascendancy. But they're still discarding land, so it means that they're still digging to try to make this happen. There's a retraction helix, so they can start bouncing our stuff, and that is actually going to be a way to kill us. So they can bounce like the 3 toughness, and they're going to end up having to get to 26 that way, and they're currently at 22. Yep, there's an op, so they just need one more. Yep, they have tramples, so that's 34, and we're dead. That's kind of miserable to sit through. I think that we had that decisively locked down had we hit anything other than just a couple of the Dirtlers. The last 2 mana dorks there at the end were definitely the death sentence. Had that been the... even if we would have just mulliganed to the Spirit, we would have just decisively had that. Okay, this is fine. There's no white mana, but we should be able to cast Panharmonicon on 3. Or 4, assuming they kill our Elvish Mystic. Man, that last match needed some circus music. Alright, opponent is still currently at 7. They have not decided to mulligan yet. Yeah, turn 2 Jade Light Ranger isn't bad. It helps us sculpt our future turns and actually draw any of the missing lands that we have. Like right now we don't have white. But a turn 4 Jade Light Ranger with a Panharmonicon, now that's pretty freaking delicious. Especially if we can Charming Prince in the same turn and get more Explore triggers. We could flicker both of them and actually explore 16 times. Then be some big dreams. Alright, opponent has still not made any mulliganing decisions. So, probably the accept game match, go run to the restroom. I don't know. As long as we're waiting, we can pull up the deck view. So, we haven't seen anything from Wingmate Rock or God Eternal. Okay, opponent disconnected. Lovely. God Eternal Ronus. That's actually something I can bring up at the moment. So, we have... Nope, not that. Preview zone. So I've brought this up in previous streams. We can actually replace the deck view with this guy right here. And I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. It'll show you whatever card just was most recently moused over. I know we are mostly a YouTube shop, so if you like seeing the deck view on hand for YouTube, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, we might actually try to implement this for just like an overview of what the deck costs, Twitch chat, and a giant readable version of the last card I moused over. So like even in a scenario like this, I can go over to the collection, have like the deck view up on a third monitor, and mouse over something like God Eternal Ronus, and you could actually see it while I'm talking about it, despite the fact that it's not in my opening hand. So God Eternal Ronus is one of the very powerful ways that we can just lock out the game out of nowhere. God Eternal Ronus doubles the power of each creature you control and gives them vigilance until end of turn. With Panharmonicon, that's double, and then quadruple, and then octuple, and then sextuple, or whatever 16 is. I honestly don't know. They never taught me that in grade school, and I've never been curious to look. So how would you feel about having something a little bit more like this, where we put the card name up over here, just like a giant version of the card, and see if it's readable? The worst part about this is because I'm bringing it up while opponent's disconnected, it means that YouTube people have probably already clicked through it, and if you haven't, respect for you. But that is something that I kind of want to address in the near future is, would you prefer me to be able to highlight like a single card in a massive version so you can actually read it and stay in tune with the game without needing to have open Scryfall, or if I should be potentially just running like you know what we're doing, and I'm playing with a bunch of really random cards. So if you need to know for some reason what uh, Spitflame does, then I can just put Spitflame up on the screen like I had done previously. Because that is something that's kind of on my radar for features that would be nice to have. I just haven't actually investigated it yet. Uh, it is actually, there are not a lot of green and white finishers in Pioneer that are cocoable. God Eternal Ronus felt like one of the best ETB effects, and Wingmate Rock was always just a fun one in Standard, so I ended up including a copy of it. We have kind of seen the awkwardness of some of the draws where we don't really have anything to flicker, or like we know our Eldrazi Displacer is going to die. I think mana is something that we definitely would need to address with this deck. I originally tried playing 4 Fabled Passages, and having a single waste in the deck. That is an option that is available to you. I didn't like it though, because I'm one of the people that like to try to keep track of the bottom cards of their deck. I know I've kind of been failing on stream because I'm trying to narrate and think a couple of steps ahead, and I occasionally forget what we hit on our first Coco, but shuffling the deck when there are bad cards at the bottom is definitely something you need to be aware of, and it's something part of the reason I love Legacy. But we needed so much mana to activate our Eldrazi Displacer over and over and over that it felt like I didn't want to have Fabled Passages be discardable lands. We're already at 20 and we've seen some mana issues when actually trying to set our deck up. So we can see why Fabled Passage would be bad, and Fabled Passage also really significantly cuts down our cocoable hits, because if we add more lands and we're doing this Fabled Passage plan, we're probably going down to like 4 mana dorks as opposed to 8, and just similar things like that. We do have a lot of card draw in this deck, which is why I felt like 20 was kind of a safe number. And the more I've been playing with it, the more I feel like we might want to go to 21, although a deck with this strategy could probably pretty easily play 18 or 19. Just because you do get Charming Prince to try to set up bad draws. You have multiple mana dorks. Jade Light will draw you into cards. Charming Prince will scry you into them, and by the time you're hitting your 3-drops, you're probably not caring about hitting more lands. I don't know. Random thoughts from thirteene, as long as I'm trying to fill the void of my opponent disconnecting. Rishkar was another consideration where like you could Rishkar and get 2 Panharmonicon triggers. Like, this is when it feels like it'd just be fantastic to have a giant version of this where I could be like, yeah, this is Rishkar. Where'd it go? I turned it off. This is Rishkar. Rishkar ETB puts a 1/1 counter on up to 2 target creatures. So with Panharmonicon, you get a couple of triggers that way. You can hit this off of a Coco, grow your creatures out of combat damage. You could end up hitting multiple ramps that you could actually run out of God Eternal off of very low mana counts. Ewit was another consideration for this deck, but Ewit grab Coco is about the best plan that you can do, and Panharmonicon does not generate any additional value out of that. So that's the thing. Wingmate Rock, again, I just love playing with this card in Standard. It was actually quite powerful. You'd end up attacking and they get 2, 3, 4 birds, and then you'd have 6 points of reach in the air, as well as growing you life out of the racing scenarios. This is one of the few ways that we could generate additional flyers. Using Eldrazi Displacer to flicker this after attacking was going to generate multiple birds with the Raid ETB effects. Field of Ruin, we did strip one of our opponents. Mana again in Pioneer is probably going to take a drastic change as people figure out what they're trying to do. This deck probably should have been utilizing fast lands. I typically like to see check lands when I'm trying to cast things with 4 CMC, and having 10 things above 4 CMC made me want to go that route, but having tap lands with 8 mana dorks just feels awful. I don't really feel like that's correct. We have 5 different deserts with the number of dig through times and treasure cruises out. I don't know if it's going to be correct to leave scavenger grounds in. The gifts deck is technically a deck. The deck that we just played against ends up using treasure cruise to refuel. Phoenix is one of the top tier decks, so it felt like having this in the list was fine as a way to activate our Eldrazi Displacer and be incidental hate. This did see a good amount of play in Standard for the gifts deck, so that felt relevant. Shepherd Dunes is just an anthem effect. It was another way to grow our creatures out of reach. We didn't have a lot of white sources that we needed, so I ended up on more Haship Oasises than I did Shephadunes, but after playing the deck, I would probably want to move up to probably 3-1 this way and maybe not even run my basic planes here. This was in here for Assassin's Trophy and our one of Field of Ruins, but maybe with Wingmate Rock, if I'm actually going to be candid, that's not supposed to be in the deck. That might make a little bit more sense. I don't actually own a third copy, but that might have actually been correct. Hey! We won. That doesn't feel like a win. Alright, well, multiple deck building things aside, we are currently 2-2. Now we get to go back to the deck view while we wait for another one. Yeah, Knight of Autumn just felt like a great flicker target. Charming Prince just super synergistic with the deck. Being able to hit Knight, Charming Prince, and Flicker was just such high value. It's such a low CMC. Getting multiple triggers off of Charming Prince just felt fantastic. Overall, this deck has been pretty fun, and I think it will get better as we get better Flicker targets. Wizards has been in the habit of doing creatures with ETB effects instead of powerful spells, and if that continues to keep up, then I could definitely see this having a lot more fun. This is going to be a Scry Charming Prince, but it's going to be a turn 3 Coco, which seems fine. We're on the draw, which makes it less good, but opponent's already mulliganed to 5. Lab Monkey with Ragavon. I love my opponent's name with the... I'm even going to tell them. Alright, Swamp, Thoughtseize. Ooh, Stitcher Supplier. So this is probably the Rally deck. Creeping Shell. Nope, this is the Dredge deck. Alright. We luckily gain a decent amount of life. We have some incidental graveyard hate in the main deck. Charming Prince actually might be life gain here. Scrying can set up my Coco. It also depends on if they have the Fatal Push or not. I'd 100% make this trade if they weren't going to mill. I actually don't think hitting my turn 3 Coco is going to be super relevant here. Alright, they found a Haunted Dead and a Gurmag Angler, which, honestly, all that's fine. Alright, being at 14, I do believe I'm supposed to actually gain the life here. Just make sure I stay in this. We are going to go well over the top of them. I could actually even see milling them out this game, so... Really don't want to fuel the Stitcher Supplier. If they attack in with it, I'm going to leave it. Yep. We take 1. Ouch, the pain. Then here I have the option of Panharmonicon or Collected Company. I don't actually envision my opponent interacting with the Panharmonicon. And Collected Company can hit me a... I actually don't think that... I think we're going to be throwing the Elvish Mystic in front of the Gurmag Angler this turn, so let's just Panharmonicon and set up for a really good next turn. I guess that doesn't actually work. Charming Prince can eat it, though. We currently have another one in hand, and we're likely going to be Cocoing next turn. Alternatively, I just don't take it. We're only on the table for 9 from Creeping Chills. This Haunted Dead is likely coming back. They just discard 2 cards they can't cast or that are irrelevant this late in the game. Get a 2-2 and a couple of flyers. Yeah, I think I'm going to block. I think I value the 5 life at the moment. We are a critical mass deck, but opponent's mostly out of gas, and we're going to be Cocoing and Charming Princing, and we just have a lot going on. If we find one more mana source in the next 2 turns, we get to Knight of Autumn, gain 8, and Charming Prince, Flicker Knight of Autumn, gain 8 more, and Scry 2. Like, you just can't erase that. This time around, I am going to be Cocoing. Opponent left mana up, so I believe it's correct to... Actually, no, I want to Coco now in case I find a Nissa or an Elvish Visionary so that I can actually make my land drop this turn. They shouldn't have anything that interacts with Coco. Ouch. Super ouch. Okay, at this point, I think I need to take 1 to scry and probably 1 to gain life. Yeah, I'll probably find something worth it off the scry too. Okay, so there's a forest. Forest would be Charming Prince and Jade Light or Charming Prince and Knight of Autumn. Jade Light Ranger could grow out of the range of the fish fairly easily. I don't actually care about that, but I think I do want the forest. Likely going to block the Gurmag Angler with the additional Mystic without a Murderous Cut? Nope. Oh, that's spicy. There's a prized amalgam. Without Elvish Visionary to, or sorry, not an Elvish Visionary, a Eldrazi Displacer to dump mana into, I actually don't really value this Elvish Mystic very much. Currently on the table for, assuming an alpha, 7, 9, 12, 13, and then potentially 2 Creeping Chills could kill me. Okay, whatever. We're going to block this. I assume there's another fish coming, and then I take 7, 10, 12. Still dead to 2 Creeping Chills. Let's just jump for 1 more turn. I did fuel a... Okay, I guess it doesn't matter. I was going to say I did fuel a Murderous Cat if they have it, but I guess that doesn't matter. Yep, this is what Dredge does. Okay, there's the forest we knew about. So I have 5 mana. I can try to Coco into something random, or I can grow this large enough to eat the Gurmag Angler after I gain 8 life. That's probably the line. I can just Knight of Autumn, gain 8 life, flicker both of these, and then gain more life and actually scry. Yeah, that's the correct line. Oh, I only have 1 white source. I guess that changes things then. So I can grow this large enough to trade with the Gurmag Angler. Or I can just gain a ton of life. Wow, not having that additional white source is actually super punishing. Yeah. Okay, well, I shouldn't have tapped Elvish Mystic there, but I didn't think it mattered. So don't want to hit the Stitcher Suppliers in case they find a... Yeah, that's just coming back. Actually, they have to discard 2 cards. Let's block that for now, and I block this. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is bad. This is super bad. I need to find a white source. There's a Satyr Wayfinder. Finding a Creeping Chill and a Narcomoeba. Amazing. Alright. Well, 3 Creeping Chills out of the way in the top 23 cards of their deck. Okay, I'm not going to hit that yet in case I find a... No, I need to leave the white source up. Alright. If we find a Visionary and draw a white source, it's going to feel bad. There's a Displacer and a Visionary. Any order. Another Displacer and a basic Forest. So we're going to run this out. Cast the Charming Prince. They have 3 damage in the air, so I need to gain 3 life and dodge a creeping shell at the bare minimum. Let's gain 3 life. Let's exile you. And then we're back on chump duty, but we're going to have more cards than the opponent. If we can stabilize here, we should be able to take it. There's all of our white sources. No Cocos or anything valuable, though. Alright. Well, you're going to chump that. You're going to trade with that. You're going to eat that. Or do I want to save the Displacer? I can double activate Displacer next turn, which means I'll probably just cast and flicker the Charming Prince. So I think it needs to go down like this, although I might be dead. Yep, I'm super dead. It was close. Alright, graveyard stuff. That's going to be a scavenging ooze for sure. Eidolon of Rhetoric actually doesn't do too much. At least it does in Modern, because they get the triggers from the Haunted Dead, they get the triggers from the Prized Amalgams, from the Narcomoebas, from the Creeping Chills. So they cast like the Scavenger. Although this is a 1/4, which kind of profitably blocks a lot of the stuff that they're doing. Selfless Spirit can also turn combat for us for a single turn, but that's probably not relevant. I think we just need to care about actually landing things that matter, and we need to come out kind of fast. I don't think we're trimming Mana Dorks. Rishkar is probably the cut here, and then maybe just a Visionary. We should be able to refuel, assuming we survive long enough, and that's just chump block duty. Scavenger Grounds is what we were really looking for last game and never found. Yeah, that doesn't really actually accomplish much. Oh, Lord. Alright. This is my hand. This is all I've got. I think I need the Cocos for refueling. I'm likely going to Visionary on 2, Visionary on 3, and then hopefully Coco on 4. I won't have any gas left in hand for the Panharmonicon. Rips would be good in the sideboard, I'm figuring out. I thought Scavenging Ooze could get us there, but this is a beating. Yep. There's a Haunted Dead. So next turn they can get back up to 2 Prized Amalgams. Okay, well that's pretty solid. Last turn not having the additional white mana was super bad too. We stumbled just a little too hard. That's a Scavenger Grounds. So Scavenger Grounds is a one-shot to eat their yard. I can run it out, but I don't really want to hold it up or tell them about it. That's slightly awkward. I think I'm just going to pop it next turn, so let's eat the Stitcher Supplier. See what they go for. Got a Narcomoeba and a Prized Amalgam. I don't really have a way to remove the Stitcher Supplier at my preferred timing. Yep. They did have the 2 Prized Amalgams too. That's, or I guess they only had 1. The other was Llanowar Waste. That's still pretty tilting. Up here's 4 triggers for the 2 Prized Amalgams. Then I get to... I don't even want to show the Scavenger Grounds at this point. There's a Charming Prince. He's a little too late, though. I'm actually going to keep Visionary around for this turn. I'm going to take a nearly lethal hit. But if I hit any flicker effects, I want to be able to target the Visionary with them before I chump block for an additional turn. Now we draw the Mana Dork. That is so sad. Alright, just going to Coco now. If they have the removal, they have removal. I'm expecting Assassin's Trophy at the bare minimum out of them. The Jade Light Ranger can actually grow to the point it's a problem. The Knight of Autumn will end up just trading. We don't have a Panharmonicon out, though, so this is at most going to be a 4/3. The Eldrazi Displacer needs the Scavenger Grounds to actually start flickering things. I'm kind of out of gas in hand. Alright, let's just do this. As far as putting stuff back, I think finding God Eternal Ronus and cheesing a kill is probably our best shot there, so may as well just take that one. We can exile the Visionary, we'll get an additional draw step. The problem is these prized amalgams just keep coming back. Alright, that might have been enough to leave up Scavenger Grounds for, but we were dead. We had to Coco there. Alright. These are things that are happening. Killing the Haunted Dead here is just going to allow them to discard, but I have to try to take as much clock off the table. Which probably means I'm going to hit this and hit this. Then I'm only taking 4 here. I go to 6. Leaves me up an Eldrazi Displacer. If opponent cannot trigger this prized amalgam, it means I probably have to Scavenger Grounds here, which just feels awful because I won't be able to activate Displacer. It also means I'm going to be running out a Charming Prince, and that's it. I can Coco and run out a Mystic. Not currently dead in the air, but they can activate Haunted Dead on a whim, which means running out Scavenger Grounds is basically just bluffing to try to pop the Haunted Dead. Coco can hit me. Well, I'm actually currently alive, but just barely. So I think what I'm going to do is Scavenger Grounds, run out an Elvish Mystic, and expect to Coco here. If they go to pop the Haunted Dead, then I can pop the Scavenger Grounds, otherwise I can hit Coco. If they don't, I can flicker the Prized Amalgam, or even just the Spirit Token. That should keep damage off me for a moment. Honestly, they mill anything and hit a Creeping Chill, I'm dead, so I suppose that's life. I have to dodge exactly Creeping Chill for the moment. Because even if we hit a Creeping Chill here, they just discard the... Yeah, they'll get a Spirit by activating the Haunted Dead. I pop this, I'm dead to the flyer, so I'm on Coco here. Opponent gets to run their Gambit. Actually, I can flicker the Spirit and survive. I don't think that's how I win, though. Alright, big Coco. I don't even think I have hits that win the game, but we'll see. Alright, well, our deck did us dirty. What can you say, though? I went into this fully expecting this deck to be kind of medium at best. We were playing just value targets, and Elvish Visionary, and the follow-up being Charming Prince to hit the Elvish Visionary, into hitting the Elvish Visionary gives you a lot of 1/1s and a lot of cards, but you need better payoffs. God Eternal Ronus felt like a pretty solid condition there. We did actually see versus Grixis Dragons, it didn't come up, but if they would have thought seized our God Eternal the turn that we had it in our hand, they actually would have taken away our primary win condition. Almost all the games we won tonight were creature beats, which is fine. Like, I typically don't enjoy that kind of magic, but we did end up taking, I guess it's only 4 games tonight. That's a little disheartening. Felt like we had game against a couple more of them, but flicker things, better flicker targets that are Cocoable would be great, or better mana sinks and just take out Coco. Maybe a devotion style build where we just ramp up into something massive and hopefully Panharmonicon a enter the battlefield effect like Hornet Queen could be viable. But Either way, had fun. Creature Beats wasn't necessarily how I play, but it was still a pretty fun deck to pilot, and I do think that there's a place down the road for it. Either way, I am 13. I play a bunch of fun decks. If you have one you'd like to share, decks at Squirrel Dealer. We have, it's probably rounding like 8 months now. Of content up on YouTube. Historically, there's a lot of modern. Now it's Pioneer. My schedule's over on the left. I will see you all next Sunday. Thank you for sticking around, and have a good night, everybody.